fantasy football. So we're gonna do this every show. We're gonna have who are the best positions are available, right? And we're gonna go running backs today, I believe. Quarterbacks Tuesday. Next week Thursday will probably be wide receivers, and then the week after that, I think we're gonna do defenses, and then after that, tight ends. Yeah. So we got today fantasy football. Who's the go-to running backs for people to? Who do you think people should really look at? Not if you don't have Saquon or Bijan Robinson.
So first of all, I want to explain the difference between a good running back and a good fantasy running back because I
Yep.
think there is a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, for example, was the second best running back in the league last year. And last year he was one of the top fantasy running backs. I think, yeah, that's a good shot. Bucky Irving. We'll get to him at some point. But
Oh yeah.
there's guys like Devon Achan, for example, from Miami. He's a fantastic fantasy running back because of how many passes he catches out of the backfield. It's just if you get a 10-yard catch 4 times a game, that's 8 points on its own. And that's without a touchdown and without any rushing yards. So that receiving backs are so much more useful in fantasy than they are in real life. Guys like Derrick Henry who don't catch the ball out of the backfield, or Josh Jacobs, who's not really a receiving back either and kind of relies on touchdowns a little bit. Those guys aren't nearly as valuable as they are to an actual NFL roster. Whereas a
Right.
guy like Devon Achan, and then the cheat code of all for a long time was Christian McCaffrey, where he was just he put up 24 every single game because he'd have 5, 6 receptions, maybe even more than that, a touchdown and 100 rushing yards, which is what made him so elite.
Yeah. So I believe the best one I can look at would be someone like somebody like Chase Brown might be a good one.
Chase Brown won me our league last year.
And a lot of people talking about, oh, he's just a rookie. Genty's going to be a good one. That's what I've seen in training camp. They got a lot of plays drawn up for him. Genty's going to be a good one to look at. Um,
I mean, the thing about a
James Cook
rookie,
might be a
like,
steal, like he was for me last year when I chose him last year to win fantasy championship. No, for me to come in second at the fantasy championship. I almost won, but I lost. But James Cook was really an X factor for me last year,
the
and
thing about rookie running backs and wide receivers, it's kind of different, and tight ends, like skill positions in general as rookies. There's not as much growth that you have to do as there is if you're a quarterback. Like
right.
if you're a good rookie running back like Bucky Irving was last year, as long as you get your touches, man, you're fine. I think Genty could be a great option this year for some people. Now, where in the draft he's going to go for as like an ADP, I'm not sure yet, just because we haven't really seen too much yet. I think a guy who, just because of the sheer volume of carries that he gets, that is really useful is Kyron Williams of the Rams. He got so many touches last year, especially in the first half of the season, where he was just always he Hooper or Cup and Nakua were both out. And if there's injuries on that team, that's who they turn to. They force feed Kyron the ball, and he gets 20 to 30 touches a game. So he's going to be another useful guy. Derrick Henry's obviously still probably going to be good with how good that Ravens offense is. Brees Hall is kind of an up and down, hit or miss type of guy. And then obviously the rookie running backs. I'm not very good at predicting those, so I'm going to leave those more to you. But Bijan Robinson is also obviously another great option.
Try to see what other steals can be out there.
I think Jameer Gibbs is probably going to be way at the top
Yeah, he's at the
again, just
top right now.
because
I'm looking at some of the rankings right now, and he's toward the top.
I, I do want to say David Montgomery could also be a steal because he gets all the goal line touches on
Yep.
that Detroit team. Gibbs will get him all the way down the field, and then they'll give Monty the ball at the 2, and he gets the 6.
I've had James Conner for the past 2 years, and he hasn't led me astray. He does get injured a bit, which is actually so. If you're kind of, you know, if you're kind of worried about injuries, you might think James Conner might not be the best option for you, but he does have a lot of production for what he is. They do run the ball a lot, and he can pass catch out of the backfield. And Kyler Murray, and I ain't gonna say he said it, but as I've seen his Kyler Murray's play, James Conner is one of his safety nets to get the ball to when he's under pressure. He throws the ball quickly. They run up screens for him. Um, and he was with the probably the best. He was the best player they had last year on fantasy. He had 1,000 yards. Just came under 10 touchdowns. Well, he had 8 touchdowns. He probably would have had 10 if he would have stayed in that. If he would have played the last week of fantasy football. Um, and yeah, he had 236 attempts. They're in 2025. They're seeing something similar as well. So James Cook is a risk, but he is a great option to look at in like the later rounds, of somewhere like the third, fourth round. Um, if you're in a 10 man, if you're in a 12 man, then you might need to look at him toward the beginning of the third round if you want him.
I've always kind of liked Aaron Jones as like a late round pick.
Yep.
Obviously, he's not going to be like a top of the table type guy or anything, and he's not going to win you a league if you're in a 6 man or maybe even an 8 man. But if you're in a 10 or a 12, he can make a darn good flex for you, or even a low end RB2, because he can get touchdowns, he can catch the ball, and he's spry. The only thing with him is he doesn't stay healthy all the time. DeAndre Swift is another guy that potentially, if you need someone at the way back end of the draft and you want like a lower end starter, he could be that guy too. If you're in a bigger league, if you're in like even a 8 man, it might not be worth it. But if you're in those 10 or 12 mans, that Bears offense could be good. Could be good this year. The offensive line is much improved, and he's a good receiving back as well. When you get him out on the outside, he's tough to tackle.
Yeah, that is true. Travion Henderson for the New England Patriots might be someone to look at as well. I wouldn't say draft him, but I would say try to look at him on a waiver wire if he's on there. I would say definitely watch him because you never know how Ramondre Stevenson is going to be. If he, Ramondre had a time where last year he was fumbling the football a bit and he was benched, I believe, for 1 or 2 games, and I forgot what his name was, but he played at Alabama, running back.
Damian Harris,
Yeah, that's it. He came
he
in.
was there a couple of years ago, but he left.
Yeah.
Someone interesting that could be like another one of those steel rookies. One of my buddies told me about this guy. His name is RJ Harvey. He's from UCF in college. He's playing on the Denver Broncos, who don't really
Yep.
have a clear cut number one running back. 1,500 yards on 7 yards per carry last year for him in his college season. So he's someone to look out for. Maybe one of those like later waiver wire pickups in the season as his touches increase throughout the year. Because some of those guys, like Bucky Irving, for example, didn't get a ton of touches at the start of the year. And throughout the season, their touches are going to increase. And that's just how it works as a rookie. You get more opportunities as the season goes along. So he's going to be one of those guys that I think by like week 4, week 5, if you're in a larger league and you need someone off the waiver wire, he could be one of those options. And then I know Naziro like this one. Omari and Hampton from the Chargers could be another option too.
And stop! Don't wake
As
me up about it. I was supposed to be a Bronco, but whatever.
one of those running backs that just as a rookie, high upside, anything can happen. You might as well take a flyer on him at some point. That's how I won a league last year, was just drafting a couple rookies. Brian Thomas Jr. and Chase Brown took me to the promised land.
Yeah, I believe another good one. I would say DeAndre Swift. If it depends on how Caleb Williams and them look. If Caleb and them can't move the ball, DeAndre Swift is going to be bad. Um, we haven't even brought in Brian Robinson either from the Commanders. He might be a
I
good
mean,
one.
either one of those guys on the Commanders, like I think Robinson at this stage in Eckler's career is probably a better option just
Yep.
because he sees the field more. Eckler's not terrible. I think Travis Etienne could be interesting this year, specifically because they came out and said he's going to be used as a receiving back and not like a pound it down your throat type of running back. But I think that both of those guys, just because they were good fantasy backs a couple of years ago, could be interesting pieces to go for, like in the late rounds, if you need someone that could get you 20 on a given week.
Yeah. And we haven't even talked about Christian McCaffrey. Now, if you have, I think he might fall to round two this year. No, I ain't gonna say round two. Well, he could because of all the
I
wide
mean,
receivers.
he had a couple rough showings last year too. Like against Green Bay, for example, he did not have a good game. Even fantasy wise, like he did not nearly perform up to his standard of what we've seen from him in the past. Now he's gonna have that new dad power this year that people always get, but
He's going to be a very big
I
risk.
think he's a wait and see type of guy because if he falls to your lap and say round two, take
Yeah,
him. But
take
don't
him.
take him don't reach for him. That's all I'm gonna say on CMC.
Same. Now the risk reward ratio out of that, depending on where you take him, you might win the fantasy championship because what he does is his effectiveness in his play is so elite in fantasy football is that he catches, he runs, and he does it a lot,
And he scores touchdowns.
and he
A lot of
scores a
touchdowns.
lot of touchdowns. So he averages almost like 18, 20. And that could be the highest reward for you. But the risk is his injuries. We've seen him with Carolina. He was injured almost every season. But when he came to the 49ers, he played, he was healthy for a while, and the injury bug caught up back up to him last year. So, yeah, it'd be something to see. Kenneth Walker's there. Uh,
Zach Charbonnet could be one of those good RB2 options too. Like out of all the guys in the NFL that are RB2s, I think he's one of the better options.
so it's definitely
I
something.
mean, we haven't talked about Jonathan Taylor yet either. He's kind
Nope.
of he's a boomer bust guy. That's the thing with JT. I draft him every year just because I have Wisconsin bias from because I'm from here. However, he was an ADP number one, like one or two, just a couple years ago. It was not long in the past that he was one of those top guys. I think it was 2 years ago. I took him at number one in a league. So a lot of people forget about him, and it's fair because he's hurt a lot and he's not really that good of a receiving back. He's mainly just out of the backfield.
I like a little bit
But
of Nick Chubb too. He's a
the thing
very
about Nick Chubb
fantastic.
this year is if Joe Mixon is healthy, he's probably going to get more touches than Chubb is.
Yeah.
So, and Chubb in fantasy, he's what I call a touchdown merchant, where he's good. If he gets 18 points, it's because he has either a touchdown or two, and all of his yards are rushing. He's not a receiving back.
No.
So he's a great real life running back, but he's an example of where in fantasy he's not going to be nearly as effective.
So what I will say, uh, we haven't even looked at Chuba Hubbard. He might be a good one because
I mean,
how the Carolina Panthers are projected.
Him and Dowdle are going to be splitting carries this year. So not 100% sure how that's going to go. Dallas drafted a running back this year. I already lost his name for some reason, but I think he
No,
was from Texas.
wait,
Um,
wait. Dowell is going. Wait, I thought Chuba was with the Panthers.
yeah, Dowdle went to the Panthers in
Oh, he
free
did.
agency.
I
Yeah.
didn't see that. Wow. But that changes everything about Chuba Hubbard. But he's still going to be the running back one though. You could draft him at. I wouldn't say draft him in the first round, but if he falls in your lap toward the back end of round three, or early or back end of round two rather, early round three, I'd say you can definitely look at him a little bit. But
I think Tony Pollard on Tennessee,
yep,
if you need someone at like the end of the draft, because he's not going to be anywhere in either rounds one, two, three, or probably even four. And then after that, you get to the quarterback and tight end rounds usually, unless it's a Brock Bowers or in the past Travis Kelsey. But he's going to be one of those guys where if you need someone, either like a borderline waiver player as a spot start or something like that, he's going to be your guy. He was a bit better last year with Tennessee. He was regarded pretty highly a couple of years ago when he was still with Dallas. And him and Tyjae Spears could be both interesting pickups if one or the other gets hurt next year.